Hey man, when a woman goes silent for months, when she disappears and leaves you wondering what happened, don't panic, don't chase, don't break your own peace trying to decode her silence. Let her, because her silence isn't strength, it's strategy. It's an emotional test designed to see if she still holds power over you. But what she doesn't realize is that silence only hurts the one who's more emotionally invested, the one who keeps checking the phone, the one who replays old messages. So if you can learn to detach, if you can train yourself to remain calm while she fades into the background, you'll notice something powerful begin to happen. Her silence stops feeling like rejection and starts revealing her fear, because no woman who's truly moved on needs to prove her absence. She's doing no contact to control your emotions, but the moment you stop reacting, that control collapses. The first stage of her no contact is always confidence. She believes the space will make you chase. She tells herself you'll miss her energy, her voice, her presence, and maybe, in the beginning, you do. You think about her, you scroll through memories, you even consider reaching out just to break the tension. But don't, because that moment right there, the moment you resist, is where your power begins to shift. Every day you stay silent, she starts to question her plan. Every night she goes to sleep without hearing from you, she wonders if maybe this time she went too far. Women use distance as a mirror to see how much power they still have over you, but when the reflection goes blank, when you give her nothing, it drives her insane, because now she's no longer in control of the story, you are, and that silence she created, it starts working against her. Here's the thing, most men don't understand. When a woman does no contact, it's not always because she's over you, it's because she's testing you. She wants to see if your emotions are still anchored to her, if you'll crumble without her presence, if you'll spiral the way you once did when she withdrew affection. But when you don't chase, when you remain calm, focused, unbothered, something deep inside her begins to shift. She starts realizing she's not dealing with the same man she left. The man who used to react emotionally has been replaced by someone who's learned to control his energy. That realization is terrifying for her, because it means her greatest weapon, your emotional attachment, no longer works. And when that happens, the power dynamic flips instantly. You stop being the one waiting, and she starts being the one wondering. In those first few weeks, she'll convince herself she's fine. She'll distract herself with friends, social media, new people. She'll post things designed to get your attention. Subtle quotes, half smiles, pictures that look happier than she feels. But that's not healing, that's performance. Because underneath the illusion, she's still watching. She's still waiting to see if you'll take the bait. She wants to know if she still matters. But the longer your silence lasts, the louder her insecurity becomes. Women are emotional creatures. They crave validation through response. And when that response doesn't come, her mind becomes her worst enemy. She'll start analyzing your calmness, she'll replay moments, she'll overthink your detachment, and that mental chaos, that's the real reason she breaks her own silence. Not love, not regret, but confusion. You didn't react the way she expected, and that unpredictability shakes her world. Letting her do no contact without interference is one of the hardest lessons for a man to learn. Because every instinct in you wants closure, conversation, clarity. You want to fix what's broken. But that impulse is exactly what keeps men stuck in emotional loops. The truth is, silence isn't something you survive, it's something you master. It's your initiation into emotional dominance. The moment you realize you don't owe her a reaction, you begin to understand the true meaning of masculine control. Let her think she's teaching you a lesson. Let her believe her absence is punishment. Because while she's busy trying to make you miss her, you're quietly rediscovering your peace. And that peace, your calm, collected indifference, is something she can't compete with. A man who's silent because he's at peace is more powerful than any woman who's silent because she's playing games. Over time, her silence begins to feel heavy, even to her. What started as a move of control becomes a weight she can't carry. She expected you to fold, to reach out, to beg for connection. But when you don't, when days turn into weeks, and weeks into months, she starts feeling something she didn't expect: irrelevance. That's the emotional death blow. Women crave emotional significance. Even if they've moved on, they want to feel like you still care. But when your life continues without interruption, when you start looking calmer, happier, more focused, she begins to panic. She starts to realize that while she was trying to test your emotions, you were testing your discipline. And discipline, in the emotional world, is the most attractive trait a man can possess. Your silence starts doing what your words never could. It teaches her your absence has meaning. Most women don't plan to stay away forever. Their no contact is a temporary control mechanism, a psychological reset designed to make you chase. They expect you to crumble, to break the silence, to remind them they still have power. But when you don't, that illusion shatters. The woman who once felt untouchable starts to question herself. She'll begin by checking your social media, lurking in your stories, maybe even messaging mutual friends just to get updates. She won't say it out loud, but inside, she's wondering, why isn't he reacting? Did he really move on? Has he found someone else? That's when she starts to spiral. Because women can handle anger, they can handle confrontation, but they cannot handle indifference. Indifference is emotional starvation, and when you feed her nothing, her ego starts to eat itself alive. The truth is, the woman who goes no contact for months isn't as strong as she pretends. She's trying to protect her pride. She doesn't want to face the possibility that she was replaceable, so she stays silent, hoping that the distance will make you weak. But when you use that same distance to grow, to elevate, to rebuild, she loses control of the narrative. Because now, every moment she stays away only deepens the gap between who you were and who you've become. The man she left behind no longer exists. The man she's imagining in her head is outdated. You've evolved past the version of yourself that needed her approval. And that's what stings the most. She left thinking she was teaching you a lesson, but instead, she taught you independence. Her silence became the very thing that freed you from her influence. There's a certain point, months into no contact, where the silence flips completely. You stop thinking about her altogether. You stop wondering if she'll return. You start focusing on yourself, on your work, your goals, your peace. You start sleeping better, eating better, living better. You stop looking for closure because you realize closure was never something she could give you. It was something you had to create within yourself. And while you're out there living, she's the one still stuck in emotional limbo. Because her silence was never rooted in peace, it was rooted in ego, and ego can't sustain emptiness forever. Eventually it crumbles. That's when you'll see her name pop up again, out of nowhere. A message, a story reply, a hey, how have you been? And in that moment you'll know you've already won. Not because she reached out, but because you no longer care that she did. So let her stay silent, let her pretend she's healed. Let her play the role of the woman who doesn't need you. Because silence is like gravity, it always pulls the truth to the surface, and eventually, her silence will expose her pain, her confusion, her regret. Meanwhile, your silence will continue to expose your strength. She's waiting to see if you'll break, but what she doesn't understand is that you already did. You broke, rebuilt, and became unshakable. And once a man reaches that level of stillness, no game can touch him, no silence can control him, no woman can destabilize him again. Let her stay gone, let her live in the echo of her own absence. Because the moment she realizes her silence didn't weaken you, it made you stronger, that's the moment she finally understands. She lost not just your attention, but your respect. And that's something no woman ever recovers from. As more time passes, something strange begins to happen in her mind. The silence she once wore like armor starts to feel like isolation. She begins to wonder if maybe she miscalculated, if maybe she overestimated her impact on you. Because when a woman withdraws and the man she left behind doesn't crumble, doesn't chase, doesn't seek closure, her sense of power begins to erode. You see, women are used to being the emotional center of a man's universe. They expect that every absence will create longing, that every distance will trigger pursuit. But when you don't move, when you remain still in your confidence, you begin to mirror something she can't control. Indifference. And indifference is terrifying. It forces her to confront the possibility that she wasn't as unforgettable as she thought, that the power she believed she had was a temporary illusion built on your emotional availability. Eventually, curiosity gets the better of her. She'll begin to test the waters without actually breaking the silence, maybe a subtle like on your post, maybe watching your story just to see how you react. These small gestures aren't random. They're her way of checking if the door is still open. If you take the bait, she wins. The dynamic resets, but if you stay calm, if you don't respond, don't acknowledge, don't even blink, you shift the entire emotional gravity of the situation. Because your silence, once reactive, now becomes deliberate, and there's nothing more unsettling to a woman than realizing her absence no longer influences you. The game she started is now playing itself out in her own mind. She's the one replaying memories, wondering if you found peace, wondering if you found someone new. That's when her no contact starts to backfire spectacularly. Letting her stay gone is not about ego, it's about reclaiming your emotional frame. When you stop needing her presence to feel complete, you begin to understand that peace is the most attractive form of power. Women can sense when a man is emotionally stable. They can feel when his validation no longer comes from their attention. And that's when their attraction returns, not because they love you again, but because they're drawn to the mystery of your transformation. They can't figure out how you went from desperate to detached, from reactive to unbothered. You become the man she once thought you couldn't be, the one she assumed needed her to feel whole. Now, your silence speaks louder than any words ever could. It tells her you're not waiting. You've moved on mentally, even if she still occupies space in your memory, and that realization hits her harder than any breakup ever did. The longer the silence continues, the more her emotional mask begins to crack. She'll act strong in public, pretending to have outgrown you, but behind the smiles, behind the posts, behind the laughter, she's uneasy, because she can't reconcile how the man she once emotionally manipulated has become the man who doesn't flinch. Every time you don't react, every time you stay calm, she's reminded of what she lost: influence. And influence is everything to her. A woman's power in a relationship doesn't come from dominance, it comes from emotional leverage, the ability to trigger, to provoke, to evoke a reaction. But once that leverage is gone, once her actions no longer move you, she loses her foothold completely. And that's when she begins to crave your validation again, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear that she no longer matters in a world where your peace replaced her presence. There's a quiet revenge in not reacting. You see, silence doesn't just protect your peace, it amplifies her confusion, because she can't fight what won't engage, she can't control what won't respond. The emotional battlefield she built collapses without opposition, and slowly she begins to turn her anger inward. She starts to question why she needed to test you in the first place, why she thought disappearing would make you chase. That's when regret creeps in, not in a dramatic way, but in small, unshakable waves. The kind that appear late at night when she scrolls through your old pictures, the kind that whisper to her when she sees another woman comment on your post. Her silence becomes the very thing that tortures her, because it leaves her alone with her thoughts, and her thoughts remind her that she lost something rare, a man who stayed calm even when broken. Meanwhile, you evolve in ways she can't comprehend. You stop living in emotional reaction and start living in purpose. You fill your time with goals, discipline, and growth. The man who once stared at his phone now stares at his future, and the energy shift is massive. People notice, opportunities appear. You look lighter, sharper, more focused. You start carrying yourself with a kind of quiet self-assurance that can't be faked, and that's when the tables truly turn. Because now she's not just missing you, she's watching you become. She's seeing the version of you she never believed existed, and that realization burns, because she'll know deep down she wasn't your reason for change, she was your catalyst. She broke you, thinking it would destroy you, but it only revealed the part of you she was never strong enough to handle. It's ironic, isn't it? The silence she used to control you ends up teaching her the most painful lesson. The man who can live without her is the man she'll never stop thinking about. She thought she could reset your emotions, but she ended up resetting her own. And now she's the one pacing, wondering, wondering if she still matters, waiting for a sign that you haven't moved on. But you have, and not by replacing her, but by rebuilding yourself. That's what she can't compete with. She can compete with other women, but not with your peace, because peace can't be seduced, manipulated, or persuaded. Peace is earned, and once a man learns to prioritize it, no woman can ever threaten him again. So let her stay silent. Let her think she's in control, because every day you remain grounded, she loses a little more of the illusion that she ever had power to begin with. You see, women mistake emotional stillness for weakness. They think your silence means you're waiting, but silence isn't waiting, it's observing. It's you stepping back to let her reveal who she truly is, and time always does that. The woman who disappeared to gain control ends up exposing her own emotional immaturity. The longer she stays gone, the clearer her intentions become, and by the time she finally realizes what she lost, you'll have already built a life that doesn't revolve around her validation. That's the beauty of restraint. It doesn't just protect your dignity, it builds your foundation. Every day you stay silent, you build something stronger than revenge, detachment. And detachment isn't cold, it's wise. It means you've learned the difference between needing connection and protecting your peace. Months will pass and she'll eventually break her silence, Not because she's healed, but because she can't stand the uncertainty anymore. She'll reach out under the pretense of curiosity, maybe even friendship, but you'll feel the hesitation in her words, the guilt in her tone. She'll be searching for familiarity, for reassurance that the door is still open, and that's when you'll know the test is over. You won't need to reject her, you won't need to humiliate her. Your indifference will do that naturally, because she'll see it in your eyes. You're no longer emotionally accessible. You've outgrown the version of yourself who once begged to be seen. You're calm, composed, unmoved, and that stillness will be unbearable for her because it confirms what she's feared all along. Her silence didn't make you chase, it made you disappear. So let her do no contact, let her vanish into her silence. Because time doesn't favor the one who leaves, it favors the one who grows. The man who doesn't break, who doesn't chase, who doesn't flinch, he wins without saying a word. You don't fight her silence with anger, you outlast it with peace. And that's what destroys her illusion, because when she finally returns, expecting to find the same man she left, she'll find someone she no longer recognizes. A man whose eyes no longer beg, whose tone no longer trembles, whose soul no longer waits. That's the final irony. She thought distance would make her unforgettable, but all it did was make you unstoppable. Let her stay gone, because silence never breaks. A man who's learned to find power in his solitude, it only breaks the one who needs noise to feel alive. As the silence stretches longer, something irreversible happens inside her. The emotional dynamic flips completely. What began as her test of control becomes her private torment. Because the more she avoids you, the more she starts to feel your absence in places she didn't expect. She feels it in the quiet moments before bed, in the laughter that doesn't land the same, in the empty validation she gets from men who can't challenge her the way you did. She thought your silence would make her feel powerful, but instead, it magnifies her insecurity. You become the ghost she can't shake, not because you're haunting her, but because your peace refuses to follow her chaos. The man she once thought she had on a leash has vanished into self-mastery, and now she's left wondering if her silence cost her something she'll never find again. A man who could love her and still walk away when disrespected. At first she'll tell herself she doesn't care, that it's for the best, that you were too much or too distant, but those are just defense mechanisms, words women use to protect their pride when their ego is bleeding. Because truthfully, she knows she overplayed her hand. She used silence as a weapon. And now she's learning that silence cuts both ways. Every time she checks her phone and sees no message, every time she scrolls and doesn't see your name pop up, she feels the cold weight of consequence. She thought she was teaching you detachment, but now she's the one being schooled in it. And the longer you remain still, not angry, not emotional, just distant, the more she begins to question if she ever truly understood you. That mystery, that unreachability, becomes the very thing that pulls her back in. See, men make a mistake when they think silence is about ignoring her. It's not. It's about transcending her influence. True silence isn't a tactic, it's a transformation. It's when you no longer need to prove your worth, explain your absence, or justify your boundaries. It's when you stop reacting and start observing. You let her pattern reveal itself. You let her run her emotional course. Because women by nature seek tension. They crave emotional movement, even if it's chaos. But when you remove that tension, when you stop feeding her drama, you starve her ego. And what happens when someone's ego starves? They begin to chase what once fed them. That's why your silence becomes more powerful the longer it lasts. It's not the absence of sound, it's the presence of discipline. And discipline is magnetic to a woman who can't control herself. Soon, she'll start rationalizing ways to reconnect. Maybe she'll convince herself she just wants closure. Maybe she'll claim she's checking in. But underneath those words lies one truth. She's curious if she still holds space in your life. That curiosity will eat at her. Because women measure their self-worth by the emotional impact they have on others. When you stop giving her that impact, she feels irrelevant. And irrelevance is every woman's quiet nightmare. So she'll start testing you again, indirectly, subtly. She'll post something meant for your eyes. She'll appear in the places you used to go. She'll try to resurrect small memories to spark familiarity. But when you don't respond, when your energy stays unbothered, that silence becomes deafening. It tells her, you're not part of my story anymore. And that truth cuts deeper than any argument could. The beauty of letting her stay silent for months is that time exposes truth. You don't have to argue. You don't have to convince her of your value. Time does that for you. Because while she's chasing short-term validation, you're building long-term peace. While she's trying to fill the emptiness with distractions, you're filling your life with purpose. The contrast becomes obvious. She's stuck seeking attention. You're focused on evolution. And that difference makes her start to miss you in a way she never expected. She doesn't just miss your presence. She misses the stability you represented. She misses the feeling of safety that your calm energy provided. And once she realizes that every man after you feels more immature, more reactive, more chaotic, she'll understand the price of losing a man who knew his worth. But by then, your silence will have already taught her everything she needed to learn and everything she can never have again. When she finally reaches that point, the moment her pride loses to her emotions, she'll return, not with power, but with uncertainty. She'll send a message, maybe something simple like, "Hey stranger." It'll seem casual, but every letter will be loaded with anxiety, because now she's not sure how you'll respond. She's no longer the one dictating the pace, she's the one waiting, and that's where your real power lies. You don't need to ignore her out of spite. You simply choose what aligns with your peace. Maybe you reply, maybe you don't, but either way, the energy has shifted permanently. She's no longer the center, you are, and she feels it instantly. The control she once wielded through silence is now gone, replaced by the haunting realization that her absence made you stronger, colder, and more self-sufficient. She'll replay the story in her mind 1,000 times, trying to figure out where she lost you. Was it when she ignored your messages? Was it when she started acting distant? She won't realize that it wasn't a single moment, it was the accumulation of every time she thought you'd never walk away. You see, women rarely notice the quiet withdrawals. They don't notice when you stop explaining yourself, when your tone softens instead of sharpens, when your eyes look through them instead of into them. But those small shifts are the beginning of your freedom, and when you finally gave her what she asked for, space, she didn't know what to do with it. Because space exposes everything. It shows her that she wasn't the prize, she was the test, and you passed it by not reacting. Here's what makes your silence so devastating to her. It doesn't seek revenge, it doesn't beg for understanding, it simply exists. It's unbothered, dignified, masculine. You're not trying to prove your worth anymore, you're embodying it. That's why she'll never forget you, because in a world where most men fold under pressure, you didn't. You chose discipline over emotion. You chose stillness over reaction, and that calm is rare, it's intoxicating. She'll meet other men, but they'll be too loud, too eager, too fragile. None of them will carry that quiet dominance you built in your solitude, and that comparison will haunt her, because while she was trying to make you miss her, she accidentally made herself forgettable. Meanwhile, your absence became the thing she measures everyone else against. The months of no contact that once felt endless now become your greatest blessing. Because through them, you rediscover your strength. You stop defining your worth by someone else's validation. You stop needing closure from people who never valued your presence. You start living from a place of power, not pride, but peace. And that energy changes everything. The same woman who left thinking she could control your emotions now watches you thrive without her. And deep down, she knows she didn't just lose a man, she lost an anchor. A man who brought clarity to her chaos. A man who was strong enough to walk away, not because he stopped caring, but because he started respecting himself more than her indecision. So if she's doing no contact for months, let her. Let her think her silence is power, because power without discipline is just ego in disguise. Let her post. Let her pretend. Let her believe she's unbothered. Meanwhile, you evolve. You rise. You become untouchable. Because silence only destroys the weak. It refines the strong, and by the time she realizes her strategy backfired, you'll be miles ahead, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. She'll return, not to the same man she left, but to the version of you she helped create, the man who needed to lose her to find himself. So let her be silent, because she doesn't know that the silence she's trying to weaponize is the same silence that's building the man she'll never get back. When she finally decides to reappear, it won't be out of love, it'll be out of confusion. Her silence was meant to punish you, not haunt her, but when it turns inward and she realizes she's the only one feeling the emptiness, panic begins to set in. You'll notice it in the way she tries to approach you, indirectly, carefully, almost fearfully. The confident tone she once had will now be replaced by hesitation, because she no longer knows where she stands in your life. You've changed, and she can sense it instantly. You no longer carry that emotional dependency, that subtle tension in your voice that told her she still mattered. Now you speak slowly, calmly and with purpose. That shift is disorienting for her. It tells her that while she was silent, you were healing. While she was planning how to make you miss her, you were becoming the kind of man she can never manipulate again. She'll pretend she's fine when she reaches out, but you'll hear the cracks in her words. The pauses between her sentences will reveal more than what she says, because she's not just reaching out to talk, she's reaching out to feel relevant again. The silence she created has turned against her, and now she's desperate to fill it with familiarity. But here's where your true test begins. You'll feel the temptation to engage, to reopen the old rhythm, to remind her of what you shared. Don't. You don't owe her warmth after she chose absence. Respond, if you choose, but with boundaries carved out of steel. No over-explanation, no emotional recall, no seeking clarity, because she doesn't deserve the comfort of knowing you're still emotionally available. The man she left was reactive. The man she's talking to now is sovereign, and that shift will terrify her more than your silence ever did. As the conversations unfold, if you even allow them to, you'll see it. Her attempts to recreate emotional intimacy. She'll mention old memories, bring up inside jokes, try to revive the nostalgia that once bound you to her. But nostalgia is a weapon, not affection. It's her way of trying to pull you back into the emotional state where she had control. You'll notice the subtle manipulation in her tone, that false softness, the deliberate vulnerability meant to lower your guard. But you're wiser now. You don't respond to softness, you respond to substance. You no longer see her words as truth, but as tactics. And when she realizes that her charm no longer influences your energy, she'll begin to panic internally. Because your calm detachment reveals something she's terrified to admit, that you finally see her clearly, and clarity is the end of manipulation. Over time, the woman who once walked away begins to sense that she's the one being emotionally ghosted now. She starts feeling invisible, irrelevant, like she's fading from the story she thought she controlled. She'll check your profiles more often, hoping for clues. She'll search for emotion in your silence, for attachment in your indifference, but she'll find nothing. Because when a man truly moves on, his energy becomes unreachable. He's not cold, he's simply free. You'll notice she starts mirroring your old patterns, sending longer messages, making excuses to connect, trying to rekindle what she once extinguished. And in that moment, you'll realize how powerful growth really is, because you didn't have to hurt her, ignore her, or shame her to win. You simply stopped chasing. You let time expose the truth, that her silence was never strength, it was avoidance, and now it's the cage she can't escape. Months later, when she finally confesses she misses you, don't get caught in the nostalgia trap, because what she misses isn't you, it's the version of herself that existed when you adored her. She misses the validation, the attention, the emotional safety of knowing she could lose control and you'd still stay. But that version of you is gone. What stands before her now is a man who doesn't tolerate uncertainty, who no longer explains his worth, who no longer apologizes for setting boundaries, and that calm confidence will feel foreign to her, even intimidating. Because women who thrive on emotional power don't know how to exist around men who no longer seek approval. She'll call it arrogance or detachment or coldness, but deep down, she'll know it's none of those things. It's peace, and peace, to a manipulative woman, feels like punishment. The irony is, she'll now experience the same psychological torment she once caused you. The roles reverse, and suddenly, she's the one craving your attention, replaying old conversations, wondering what you're thinking. But you won't be playing a game, you'll simply be living, and that's what breaks her, because she'll realize she can't affect you anymore. She'll try to provoke emotion, subtly or directly, but your stillness will act as a mirror, reflecting back her own instability. You'll see the frustration in her attempts to reconnect, the forced enthusiasm, the sudden interest in your life, but every time she tries to pull you back into her world, she'll be met with the same unshakable calm that once drove her away. Only now, it draws her in. She won't understand it, but she'll feel it, and that confusion will haunt her long after you stop caring. You'll start to notice a shift in her behavior, her energy becoming inconsistent. One moment, she'll act affectionate, the next distant, one moment curious, the next defensive. That's what happens when control slips through her fingers. Her emotions, once calculated, now run wild, because she can't figure out what you're thinking anymore. She used to read you easily, now you're unreadable. And there's nothing more dangerous to a woman who relies on emotional dominance than a man who gives her nothing to analyze. Your calmness becomes her chaos. Every time you remain composed, she becomes more unbalanced. and that's when she begins to understand the full weight of what she lost. Not just your presence, but the privilege of your energy. You've become the man she always wanted, but now he exists in a world she no longer has access to. At some point, she'll finally admit the truth. Maybe not to you, but to herself. She'll realize she left a man who would have given her everything for the illusion of control that gave her nothing. And that realization hits harder than heartbreak, because deep down, women know they rarely find men who stay calm under chaos. They crave strength, but they test it to see if it's real. And when you pass that test, by not reacting, by not chasing, by not collapsing, she learned the truth. She didn't outgrow you, she underestimated you. She mistook your kindness for weakness, your silence for surrender, your detachment for disinterest. But it was none of those things, it was mastery. And mastery is something only the strong can recognize, usually when it's too late. You'll know you've truly won when her words stop affecting you completely. When you can look at her without anger, without longing, without the weight of what happened. That's the ultimate freedom, emotional neutrality. It's not indifference born from bitterness, but serenity born from strength. You no longer need her validation to feel worthy. You no longer chase love from people who can't recognize its value. And that realization gives you a kind of confidence that can't be faked. The confidence of a man who's been broken, rebuilt, and reborn. Meanwhile, she's trapped in a loop of nostalgia and regret, wondering how the silence she once used to test you became the silence that destroyed her illusion of control. So when she does no contact for months, let her believe she's punishing you. Because time has a way of turning ego into regret. Don't chase, don't break, don't react, just stay still, stay grounded, and let her absence work for you. Because the man who masters silence doesn't lose, he transforms. And by the time she realizes what she's done, it won't be about revenge or closure anymore. It'll be about peace. You'll have found something deeper, something she can never compete with, yourself. And that's the greatest lesson of all. When a woman walks away to test your worth, your silence doesn't just pass the test, it changes the entire game. Because you don't win her back, you win yourself back. And that, my friend, is something no woman can ever take from you again. When the silence stretches into seasons, it no longer feels like waiting, it becomes peace. The kind of peace that doesn't rely on outcomes or closure. You stop checking your phone, you stop replaying conversations, you stop asking why she did what she did. Because deep down, you finally understand something most men never do. Her behavior was never about you. It was about her relationship with herself. You were simply the mirror that exposed her instability. And when she couldn't handle her reflection, she ran. But what she didn't realize was that in running from you, she also ran from her growth. Meanwhile, you stayed. You faced the pain. You confronted the silence. You embraced the void. That's why you're free now. Because true strength isn't moving on quickly. It's sitting in stillness until the storm inside you quiets on its own. Her world, on the other hand, becomes restless. The distractions that once filled her silence, the new faces, the social media validation, the temporary highs, begin to lose their flavor, because nothing replaces emotional depth once you've tasted it. She starts to see through the surface level attention, the shallow conversations, the men who promise excitement but can't offer peace. They all remind her of what she lost, not because they're bad men, but because they're ungrounded. She misses your calm energy, your control, your ability to stay centered, even when everything else fell apart. But by the time she recognizes it, it's too late, because you've grown past needing her recognition. You're not angry, you're indifferent, and that indifference hurts more than hate ever could. Every time she thinks of you, she'll feel that sting of regret, not because you were perfect, but because you were real. In a world full of men performing for attention, you stood firm in authenticity. You never begged. You never faked confidence. You simply existed with quiet certainty, and she mistook that for predictability. Now, she understands what you actually were, stability. And stability once lost becomes the rarest luxury. She'll see you thriving, perhaps not flaunting it, but living it. Your growth won't be loud, it'll be visible. It'll show in your posture, your tone, your peace. And that's when she'll finally understand what women always learn too late, that losing a grounded man isn't just losing love, it's losing direction. She'll scroll through your pictures wondering if you ever think of her, but the truth is, you don't. Not the way she hopes you do. You've already forgiven her, not for her sake, but for yours. You've released the weight of resentment, because you've realized it only keeps you tied to someone who's no longer on your level. Forgiveness, for a strong man, is freedom, not reconciliation. It's the silent declaration that her chaos no longer has a home in your heart. And that kind of release drives her mad, because she wanted you to hate her, she wanted you to chase her, she wanted proof that she mattered, but your silence gives her none of that. It leaves her floating in uncertainty, trapped between guilt and longing, searching for closure in a place she can no longer reach. The truth is, women like her never expect men to evolve. They expect men to react, to beg, to break, to become bitter. But when you do the opposite, when you become grounded, when you become sharper, when you rise quietly, it breaks every illusion she built about you. You were supposed to be the one who never got over her, but instead you became the man she now measures every other man against. That's not pride speaking, that's consequence, because the same silence she used to test you has now become the soundtrack of her regret. Every time she tries to replace you, she's reminded that chemistry isn't connection and attraction isn't alignment. She'll chase excitement until it exhausts her, but she'll never find peace until she confronts the truth. The man she lost was the one thing her ego couldn't control. There's a poetic justice in how it all unfolds, because the silence she weaponized ends up teaching you discipline, and that discipline becomes your foundation. You no longer tolerate inconsistency, you no longer confuse attention with affection, you no longer romanticize potential. You see people for who they are, not who you want them to be, and that clarity changes everything. The next time you meet someone, you'll no longer overgive or over-explain. You'll move with patience, discernment, and power. You'll protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. And this time, she won't be there to see it. She'll hear about it, maybe see glimpses, but she won't be part of it. And that will hurt her more than the breakup itself. Knowing that her absence created the man who finally learned to live without her. You'll notice something profound too. You won't even want revenge. You'll have outgrown it. Revenge belongs to the wounded, not the wise. And you've already healed. You don't need her to see your glow up. You don't need her to apologize, because peace is its own closure. You'll wake up one day, look around, and realize you haven't thought of her in weeks. And when you do, it won't hurt anymore. It'll feel distant, like a movie you once watched but no longer relate to. That's what real healing feels like. Not forgetting, but remembering without pain. And when she finally comes back around, trying to find the man who once adored her, she'll realize he's gone forever, replaced by the version of himself she helped create, but will never have access to again. By now, she'll start experiencing the ripple effects of her choices. The relationships that follow won't feel fulfilling, not because those men are bad, but because her heart is still tethered to the lessons she refused to learn. Every argument, every disappointment, every hollow connection will echo your absence. She'll remember how you used to respond with calm instead of chaos, how you led instead of reacted, how you made her feel safe even when she tested you. That contrast will haunt her, because it's not easy to forget the man who remained solid while she fell apart, and that realization, though silent, will become her greatest punishment. You won't need to remind her of what she lost. Life will do it for you. You see, this isn't about making her regret leaving. It's about understanding that the universe always balances itself. The energy you gave her was never wasted, it was invested. It built the strength that now defines you. And every tear you shed, every night you doubted your worth, every unanswered question, it all served a purpose. It refined you. It stripped you of attachment, of desperation, of illusion. You're no longer chasing validation. You're living in alignment. You've become what most men never become, self-contained. And the irony is, now that you don't need her, she'll crave your energy more than ever, because she'll feel what you once felt, the ache of missing something real in a world full of shallow imitations. So let her silence continue. Let her pride keep her from reaching out. Let time do what it always does, reveal truth, because the man who can sit in silence without breaking becomes unshakable. You don't win by proving your worth to her. You win by proving your peace to yourself. You were never meant to chase her. You were meant to outgrow her. And now that you have, there's nothing left to say. She'll come back eventually, not because she loves you, but because the world outside your presence is cold and chaotic. But by then, it won't matter, because you found what she was never capable of giving: stability, clarity, and self-respect. You let her go, and in doing so, you found yourself. That's not just healing, that's transcendence. And once a man reaches that level, no woman's silence, pride, or manipulation can ever break him again.